Radio.
All right, everybody, welcome to this, and I'm going to get it right today because everybody's looking at me. Welcome to this Friday edition, that is right, Friday, right? This Friday edition of the Leadership Blend with your host, Ricardo D. Rice, and my intern,
Ronald Newton.
and the correspondents,
Double R.
Simone Cherie.
and our very special guest. Okay, so look, Jeremy is the only guy I know that I have let do my show. This will be his third time.
Yes, sir.
So you should feel honored because I don't let people
MVP.
come on my
Come back
show
ever.
to do, unless they're doing a follow-up interview for something we talked about. Like I did let Latasha Holden, who will be back soon. I let her do it because we want to. She ran for public office. She didn't win, but I want to do a follow-up to see how it went and what the process was like. So outside of Latasha, you're the only other person I let come on my show more than twice.
Excellent. I feel honored.
All right, so tell everybody about yourself. Tell me your name, what you do, all that good stuff.
All right, so I'm Jeremy Harp. I run the college preparation program. It's a program dedicated to helping families and students prepare for college. I don't know what your college preparation process was like, but mine was not that great. So it was my mission to sort of help bring that information and knowledge to the families who need it.
Yeah, he's serious because he has a book, which he reminded me that I yelled at him about last time because he told me he had a book and didn't bring it. But it's a good book because his book has illustrations in it. So it doesn't just tell you, oh, go to FAPS's website. It has pictures of where you want to go and what you're supposed to click. It's really amazing. And like I said, with the struggle we're having with education and getting people in college and people not being swamped with student loan debt and all that good stuff, it's definitely information we need to have. So in our second hour, Jeremy gets to cut loose. Or maybe in the first hour. We'll just see how this flows because there's a lot going on as usual. So we're going to see how this flows. So we're going to jump right into it. So Simone,
Yes.
give us the rundown.
All right, so a couple quick updates really quick. The death toll for Hurricane Florence is at 42. So it's becoming one of the most deadly hurricanes in the last several years. We need to keep praying for North Carolina, for South Carolina. It's still flooded, and the flooding doesn't seem to be stopping anytime soon, and they're predicting a lot more water over the weekend. So just keeping Florence in our prayers. But outside of that, most of the headlines today are about Brett Kavanaugh and the Senate confirmation hearing to be currently pending. So if you haven't been following, Christine Baisley Ford is a doctor. She's a professor out in California, and essentially she sent an anonymous letter to the Democratic Party, to Dianne Feinstein in particular, a Democrat of Michigan, essentially saying her and Kavanaugh went together to the same high school, went to a house party, and that she was assaulted by him sexually. The words attempted rape are what she used. She said that it was a very traumatic event for her, that it derailed her life. And since then, obviously it's been a media spectacle, but her identity was leaked last week. So Democrats have called for a delay on his confirmation, basically trying to figure out if the FBI can do an investigation, but there's very little details. Her letter, if you haven't read her letter, it describes a little bit about the event, but there's no year, there's no date, there's no address, there's no names for anyone else who was at this house party except for Kavanaugh and a friend. So originally, Dr. Ford agreed to testify. She's since said that she's not going to testify unless an investigation is run. And she had a list of other little demands that also came out on yesterday. So Kavanaugh can't be in the room. Kavanaugh has to go first to give his testimony, of course, after an investigation. And she doesn't want to open to the public. She just wants it to be in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee and maybe a couple of other officials. So her deadline set by Republicans was today at 10 a.m. to make a decision, and they may just move forward without it. But Trump's been very quiet, considering something this big happened. He was Trump's pick for the Supreme Court. Trump does not spend 3 days off of Twitter, and he released a statement, a very diplomatic statement on Tuesday, saying that we'll see how it goes. I trust Kavanaugh's character, but we'll just have to see what happens because Dr. Ford has to be heard, and I was a little stunned. That's all he had to say.
Somebody took over his Twitter account.
Right,
Somebody took over his Twitter account. That was not a hack.
And
somebody hacked him.
Yeah, but today he made up for lost time. So
which is weird because usually when somebody hacks you, they act a fool under your name. Somebody actually acts sensible under his name.
Let me
that shocks people for Trump.
That's weird. Okay, so I guess my question is, devoid of all the information we would need to make a logical decision on whether this actually happened, I guess my question is, was there any more details when you think about the Cosby case and all that stuff? Like, did they give, because theirs were 20 and 30 years old. Were there
True.
times and places? And
I think there are definitely times and places. It may not be down to the minute, like this is what happened, this is what happened, this is what happened. But she can't remember the year. She basically said in the 80s this happened. So they're 53 now. It's been 36 years. And that was basically the essence of Trump's gripe today when he finally decided to talk about it was, if this was really all that bad, his words, quote, were, if this was that bad, it would have come up by now because it's been 36 years, which is controversial in and of itself because it gets into Me Too and trauma and why people delay
Well, that's what I was going to
reporting.
say. So it can be a credit to trauma that she suppressed it because it was so
Yeah.
traumatic for her that she's not going to remember the specific details. But again,
That's the question on the table.
Yo,
is like,
he been in public office like the last 15 years, right?
yeah, he's been a district.
yeah, but
DC circuit
again,
court
but what
judge,
he's
yeah.
going for, and we talked about this last week, what he's going for.
He's been in public office.
Yeah, but
So do y'all think
his
that
whole
timing is
adult
kind
life.
of
It's
interesting?
weird. It's weird, and that's why I said it's going. He's going to get in. But this is why I said on Monday. Don't this seem a little? I don't think this was planted by the Democrats. I really think it was planted by the Republicans, just so they could be like, "See, we knew she was lying."
Oh wow.
That's what they do. They point the finger.
What is the?
I think
what
it's
would be the point?
because if they can catch a dub right now, they about to catch a dub. What's like?
What does that mean?
They about
What's
to
a
catch a
dub?
win. It would be a win for them to make. Don't forget, she sent the letter to a specific
Straight,
person
yeah.
in the Democratic Party. Why would you do that? To this particular person, not to anybody else. To this person.
Yeah, but we have to see what the history of this person. Maybe they had some sexual trauma in their back
Nope.
history that they would be able to relate.
Nope.
It's hard because there's no evidence. So she claimed that her life was derailed. That was her quote. But she never reported it in criminal court. She
And she
never
a
filed a
doctor.
civil suit.
What?
She did see a therapist about 6 years ago. But the therapist notes, which is the only thing that the FBI could really look into, they had different events. They basically said there was 4 dudes in the room, not 2 dudes in the room. The therapist said that she made no mention of Kavanaugh when she discussed this. But I guess she never discussed it
How about
before.
she called
She
names?
never discussed
I mean,
it before.
If there was 4 other guys in the
She
room
just
and
said
she
there
didn't
was
call
4
any
guys in the
names,
room.
then you can't say, well, she didn't call Kavanaugh. Well, she didn't
Right.
call anybody's name.
Okay.
So,
But she knows exactly who he is now, seemingly. Like that's
All
him. Like
of
she
a
knows
sudden.
exactly.
yeah, but
who
it's not like she's
Surprisingly.
some running the mill chick. I mean, she's a doctor. She's
My
just a
point
professor.
exactly.
Yeah,
This
a
is why
professor.
I'm saying that you remember I said this on Monday that this whole thing is a joke, right?
It's the Democrats.
I
It's
don't
the
think
Democrats.
I really think it was it. I think that it's a way to be like, see, Democrats, we knew y'all was on some stuff, just so they can catch they gonna win regardless.
And false
He's gonna
rape is
get
a big
in.
Deal. False rape's a really big.
He's gonna get in, like regardless. But if you can say that he got in because the Democrats tried to, like, this is what they do. This is what they do.
But see, it's bad because he has to be confirmed by a majority, and there are already Republicans. There's only so many Republicans who are anti-Trump, but like Susan Collins in Maine is one of them. Jeff Flake in Arizona is one of them. And if they don't, he needs all the Republicans to confirm this judge. And Flake has already said that he really wants to hear from the victim, from Dr. Ford, before he can make a vote. And now there's Republicans kind of wavering. Obviously, Democrats are really pressuring everybody to waver. Like, we got to throw the towel in, push it back, postpone it, pick somebody else. So,
I mean, okay. So what is his history like? Is he somebody we want to be this justice? I guess that's the
well,
question.
I think so.
He got a good track record, but that don't mean like just because you got a good track record that you ain't you ain't one of them hoodie guys. Like, we don't know. We don't. This is what I'm saying. We don't
Sometimes I
know.
hate you.
But
Sometimes I really hate you.
but in real life we don't know. Like, nobody. If you think about all the people that talked about Trump, everybody talked about his character in a totally different way. He is a great guy. He's a nice guy. I never thought that he would be like this, and he got in, and then you seen that hoodie come out.
Yeah, but I mean, Trump was never no straight laced guy. Like, he would go off the cuff in a heartbeat.
But
So I don't
nobody
know.
was like, "Oh, this
But
guy
nobody thought
racist."
he was yeah, that's very true.
A lot of Republicans didn't like him because that's why he didn't ever win more than 50% of the Republican primaries. He would always win the most
Just
percent
enough, yeah.
to win the primary, but not a majority of Republicans. So it actually is a seeming to be a commentary on how the primary system works, because the majority of people cannot like you, vote against you, and you still win.
And again, he's not a Republican, he's a Trump-publican. So that's the vernacular I'm trying to spread around, especially in this station, for this purpose, because he's not a Republican.
I've never heard you say that.
The first time that this happened, like, so Dr. Ford's been compared to Anita Hill. And Anita Hill was involved in the sexual assault claim for Clarence Thomas, who succeeded Thurgood Marshall, but that was about sexual harassment. So the context, I think, is very different in Anita Hill's case. Like, they worked together. He basically had made comments, made jokes, was describing his anatomy to her, showed her pornographic videos and stuff like that, and just really creepy, weird stuff. Not the same thing as attempted rape, not the same thing as putting your hands on someone. And she even said that she followed him to a higher position, specifically because she felt like the harassment would stop and she didn't feel like she was in any danger. But the FBI did leak that, and he barely was confirmed. It was the closest confirmation we've seen. It was like 52-48. It was very close. So this could mean that Kavanaugh's not going to, with something like that versus this, considering they were 17 at the time this supposedly happened, it was attempted rape, quote unquote. But basically, it really just sounds like some roughhousing is what the letter sounded like to me.
That is not what it sounded like.
It sounded like roughhousing. She said that he jumped on her, and then his anyway.
I'm from the hood.
It sounded like
you
roughhousing
in a
to me.
room with 4 dudes. It sounds
She was
like what that
clothed
girl
the entire
said.
time.
You remember what the girl said when she accused Jameis Winston of being in the room with all those dudes? Oh no, he was there. I remember him. That's what it sounded like. It sounded like he might have been there and then he ain't do it.
So
but he was there.
A frat party. That's what you're trying to say.
He was
a frat
17.
party.
Or you was 17 and you was doing too much.
They were drinking.
Right.
It was underage drinking.
You was doing too
But
much.
he said he was never at that party. He said he's never.
And
been,
she didn't say like the all the stuff I was saying. She didn't name him. Like he looks familiar. Like no, you point the finger.
Yeah.
How you say somebody look familiar and be like, no, that's bro right there. That's him. Him right there. Yeah, he did it. That's what it. But that's why I said if he catch the dub, which I think it's an alley oop. But this an alley oop off like the jumbotron, because it would be like this would be the biggest win they had all year.
Yeah, to name what you just
For him to get in after allegations like that, like not to mention this Trump thing with the porn star, like all this stuff going on, 130 bands, like, no, hey, tell my lawyer to take his money and give it to him and I'm going to just pay him extra with some, come on, bro.
And which is why Trump's not a great spokesperson for anybody when it comes to sexual assault. He's just not. But it is a big deal.
Clearly.
Like there's a student out of Florida. This was in the Palm Beach Post, who was just sentenced to a year in prison for lying about being raped, and it's no joke to lie
Really?
about it.
Really?
Yeah,
Yes.
she was sentenced to a
Wow.
year. And I
Finally.
really think they're starting to throw the book at,
Right.
But
allegations
that's
like
why I
that.
said what Jamie Foxx told. Hey, I got too much going on right now. My daughter grown. Me and my daughter on the TV show. We on Primetime Network. I got the YouTube thing. Like, he got it going on right now. Don't be trying to put that on me like that, because I'm show up at your crib with the lawyers. I'm going to throw the whole book at you.
Right.
He said, I want time. I don't want regular time.
Well, I guess the question is, are we going to head fastly to statute of limitations being put on this kind of stuff? Because we're seeing this a lot now, where
no.
things are happening
What do you think?
20 and 30 years old, and now you're bringing it up.
Yeah.
I feel like we're going to fastly approach where they're going to say, okay, we need to put a statute of limitations.
Mm-hmm.
If it's over 20 years old and you can't recollect who was in the room, what happened, the date and the time,
The year.
we're just not going to hear it.
Right. It just makes me, as a black man, nervous about everything I've done in the history of my life, because I'm like, what could possibly have been thought of as something bad in an interaction? Not even that I did anything, but more of like
The perception, how they felt.
Perception of the other person, and that just makes me nervous, because now anything that I do from now on, it's sort of like, oh,
Can't come back and bite you in the behind.
Right.
And that's because the court of public opinion is like so quick with it.
There
like,
we
it took
are.
them no time to be. I mean, it takes the judicial system a very long time to investigate these kind of things. But an allegation has so many consequences even before anything's looked into. And the thing about this was in Maryland, and there is no statute of limitations at all. Like you can literally come up at any time that you'd like to. So the fact that it's right now, like in July, when he was announced as the nominee, that she sent a letter to the Democrats. It's like, come on. And even in the letter, she said, I felt obligated as a citizen to say something. So you're really not traumatized. What you're really trying to do is stop him from being on the Supreme Court.
To catch a dub.
Like, it's just, that's kind of like, it's disrespectful, I think, to like, it does take a long time for traumatic events to register with people. And so I think you have to be careful on that fine line of what someone's experienced and how long it takes them to come forward. I do think there's really good reasons, even like reasons of like retaliation or just fear of whenever you were assaulted. Like it can take some time before you're like, all right, maybe I'm ready to just discuss all this and let all these memories come back. But the July before, the September before he was supposed to be, like, come on, like that's just, I think it's disrespectful.
Well, I mean, maybe her thing is that she doesn't want this to happen to any of the pages or the interns.
It's the way it's happening. Like it was a study that showed like there's a part of your brain that literally stops working when you go through a traumatic experience. And seeing people over and over again, you're forced to relive the memory over and over again. You've been seeing this man in public office for the last 15 to 20 years.
At least.
Why is it just like that's the thing with the Cosby thing? He been on TV. He's been famous the whole time he been famous. So we talking about like since 75. He been the guy since 75.
But that's my annoyance. And every time we get in this, that's my annoyance. It always goes back to Cosby. Because I'm like, it does. For me, it goes back because I feel
because right now it's one of the oldest cases and none of these things could be proven.
Well, and that's my point. That it shows the power of public opinion. That's a problem to me. But you can rip the livelihood from an American love, not even a black guy, an American loved father who set the bar and the stage for a certain segment of TV. And you can rip him from history. From stuff that hasn't even been confirmed or hasn't even been proven.
I agree.
How did we get here?
Because he admitted that he had sex with him. He was in court pointing him out. I had sex with her.
But that's the number one defense for rape is that it was consensual.
And her twice. And her.
First of all,
look, the two women, the last 4 cases, because he only got convicted on 3 out of 60. He got convicted on 3 women. And we're talking about consecutive cases. So he got consecutive 10-year cases. So 10 years, 10 years, 10 years for 3 women. And 2 of them, he said he did it to them together. So it's like y'all 2 together. I remember you a little bit, but we was high, so I don't remember. And he was admitting, like, we were all doing drugs. So you talking about a man, like, he been married to his wife
that's doing drugs.
the whole time. So he in court like, I cheated on my wife and every time. Then I would tell her, like, I messed up. So we talking about, like, since, like, the early 80s, since he was on TV. He had a show running for 10 years. It's the longest running family TV show.
I know.
Ever.
But we're here because for a long time there has been a lot of retaliation against victims of sexual assault. And people are not always believed when they talk about someone, especially a loved person. So there has been a lot of reasons why people just kind of sit on things. Even in this situation, the the Senator Feinstein she's getting backlash from Democrats or from liberals and from people around the country because she got the letter in July and it came to light in September. So people are saying, okay, well, if this really happened, why'd you sit on a letter for 2 months? You know what I mean? Like, people are often not believed. And so I feel like now there's this reverse trend where it's like we just believe women. And that was in quotes, actually. I think it wasn't Orrin Hatch. I think Jeff Flake. It was one Republican, but they essentially said we just need to believe women, and that was very scary to me and very dangerous to me. Whoever it is,
well, I mean that's what we're at now. It's a witch hunt. It's like, okay, well, I want to take him down, so now I'm going to say, hey, we were together, and he jumped on top of me. He took me to dinner first,
and a lot of them are like workplace. They're like a lot of workplace.
Yeah,
like we worked together. I seen some guy made a post yesterday on Instagram and was like, it makes me not want to hire women. And if I do, they got to be super old or real ugly. And then somebody commented and it was like, what you mean? Because I look good and I need a job. You not going to hire me? Yeah. That is what that means. You're literally, it's forcing the technology that we have right now is literally forcing people to not ever have to meet. Mm-hmm. So it's forcing me to not only deny you because, oh no, you look too good, you can't work here, because I don't know what that's going to turn into. Now I'm scared to even walk up and try to talk to you in public because the thing with Morgan Freeman, he brushed me and it felt inappropriate.
I can't believe
He brushed you and it
Yeah.
felt inappropriate. Louis C.K. was pulling. He was just, hey, yo, you want to see it? Yo, you want to see? Look at me. You want to see it? And then Morgan Freeman, this man 80-something years old. And we've seen it before, like women was like, no, it's just like he just stood too close and he would make certain comments.
But I think this is also this isn't anything new. This is like historical for a long time ago. And I think it's one of with the movie, the original Birth of a Nation movie, it was the first movie ever made, depicts this. This is like essentially the rise of the KKK. And the premise was like these black men were attacking and dangerous to white women. And just it was people in blackface and stuff like that. It's a terrible movie with the storyline, but it's that consistent message has been told about black men being scary, being assaulted, and being dangerous people. And I think that's continuing now. It's just more of the same thing. Or even with Emmett Till, it's like that accusation is enough to cause
stomp your face in and throw you in the creek.
And to be enough. And that's how dangerous accusations are.
And then she came out 5 years ago and said it was untrue. She made a statement in the 90s.
Right?
And then she confessed to her children as she's dying. Make sure you let his family know that he was innocent.
Oh, good Lord.
If I would have found that, I would came and punched you at your funeral.
You can't punch somebody.
Why not? I'm going to show up at your funeral and punch you in your face.
But I think another thing, too, is people don't understand how easy it is to have your life ruined.
Yes,
literally. They don't get because people always like to say, like, where there's smoke, there's fire. Or they like to say, well, if you're innocent, it doesn't matter. If you're innocent, it doesn't matter. And it's like, that is just so untrue. Like, before you even get a chance to be innocent, you have to get to trial. And before you even get to trial, you have to go through a whole lot of hoops, hell, and really, for months and months and months. It costs a lot of money to defend yourself. And even while all that's going on, your wife's looking at you crazy. This man's got, like, young kids and stuff like so. Everything that goes on before you can even prove that you're innocent, you know what I mean? You can't get that time back. Can't get those jobs back, or you know what I mean. All those conversations have already happened. Those articles have already been written.
Think about all them. I remember a couple years ago, he was a high school football player. He got locked up in the early '80s for 29 years, and he was innocent. And the girl came out and testified later for his appeal, and was like he was innocent. This man lost 30 years of his life. They had to get his man $15 million and make him sign a form to say he wouldn't tell his story.
There was the most recent one where the guy was in high school and was going to go to USC, and then he got accused of, I think, rape or sexual assault, and then he spent 10 years in prison. And then when the lady said she didn't do it, the Falcons, I think,
gave him join the practice squad
because he was like the top recruit in the nation, and then. Spent 10 years in prison.
They literally will throw, it went from accusing you, we just gonna beat him up, we're gonna kill him because we can. That's not court. That's not
justice.
But it showed you early. Emmett Till case showed you early. The court of public opinion, the judge is the streets.
Oh yeah.
Because them folks showed up at his house, snatched him out of his crib, and nobody did nothing. Nobody did nothing. So, the Jay-Z line is Zimmerman still running around, but, y'all want to bang on how y'all do that? The same premise can be looked at it then, nobody did nothing. They stomped this man's face in. His mom had to have, nah, y'all come look at my baby.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just ugly.
Well, I mean, but then it segues us. Okay, so recently, Julie Chen, who is the moderator for the talk, stepped down because her husband was same thing, allegations, and he was over CBS. So she had to step down as a result of it. So again, when these things happen, they don't just affect the person who's being accused; they affect everybody else. So now, as a result, because think about it, she has to go on her show. And they do what we do and talk about current events. Yeah. Now you have to talk about your husband being on trial for allegations against him.
Yeah.
So she had to step down. But actually, I think Big Brother's coming to an end too.
Yeah. No.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Because of this?
No, I think it's coming to an end in general. But now she had to step down from her position as moderator of the talk, which she's been on since the beginning because of this.
But I think she did that because she was tired of questions, like every day.
Well, yeah,
so
she's the
like, did you
moderator,
know,
so-
like your husband was just out here doing? No, I didn't. Ask me one more time, I'm gonna come across this table. Like,
Well, she's a moderator, so she's the one that put the questions on the table. So imagine
Yeah.
having to put this
Yeah.
on the
And she
table
knows it's
to
gonna be
discuss
talked
your
about.
husband
Right.
and his
Talked about.
allegations and why he had to be asked to leave.
and
Kathy
a
Griffin.
lot of his stuff was recent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're not talking about like 15, 20 years, like Matt Lauer.
Right.
We
Yeah.
talk about like, nah, your man's was just at the hotel room with Shorty a couple weeks ago.
And Kathy Griffin went on the Breakfast Club and was like, "Yep, I wrote it. Didn't I say it? Didn't I write about it? I already told
Her
everybody."
interview was
I didn't know she did. We'll have to watch it.
Outstanding.
I love.
that was a great interview because she
messy.
said like
That was
she
recently?
been-
She's messy.
Yeah.
Yeah, last week. This
Yeah,
week?
she was saying like a lot of this stuff. She been talking about it. She been
Him
saying
in
it.
particular, just
Like a lot of these guys.
A lot of the guys, like the heads of studios. So he was head of CBS, and she's basically like, there's like 5 major executives in Hollywood.
Over
Period.
these
Like the
networks.
same 5 dudes. And yeah.
Yeah, she put all these dudes on blast.
well,
Yeah.
apparently CBS set aside 120 million as a possible severance for him while they're investigating these allegations.
Yeah, because you got to pay him out. He on a contract.
Mm-hmm.
So they would call it severance. It's like, nah, we're going to pay you out your contract and go ahead and get you on up out of here because we don't want our name connected to this.
Yeah, that's pretty much what companies do. And which is why House of Cards. This is
Oh,
incredible.
please don't talk
I'm
about
talking about.
It's just painful.
Yeah.
And
I
Kevin
love House
Spacey
of
is my
Cards.
guy. Like, I love Kevin Spacey.
But if you watch House of Cards, was that really that far fetched? With the stuff that he
Did
did?
I not say
On the
this?
show?
I said this on
I
Monday.
mean,
See, that's
I'm
the
just-
kind of thing
wait,
that
wait.
makes people
I'm
believe
just saying.
the allegations.
People, art imitates life. I'm just saying the way that he was able to maneuver that character in House of Cards. I'm just
Hollywood is about typecasting. You are what you look like. He just looks like a sneaky dude, and he's made a lot of money playing a sneaky looking dude.
I said it on Monday that a lot of this stuff go on out here, and it just be like
It
that.
does, but the stuff he was accused of was like, okay, like he grabbed somebody's butt, or
They do that in the
and
club.
mostly dudes.
Nah, look
you
at what he was doing on House of Cards though with him and
Facts.
his man's.
Facts.
But that's different.
Look at him and
I
his
think
mans.
the
He
main
had
thing
consent for that.
was
The
the
bodyguard.
young boy, right? He
Yeah,
was
the
like
bodyguard.
a young. No, I'm talking about
On the show.
in real life.
Yeah, he was young.
He was accused of being in some room with some young
Yeah,
boy,
yeah.
but that was the thing. But again, I think that it was something that you can't really know stuff like that. It's sort of like what you were talking about earlier,
Yeah.
saying that was 30 years ago or something.
Some people
like
just
that.
look some type of way, but it seems like once there's 1, there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there ended up being like 12.
Yeah, that number
Yeah.
steadily rose. I mean, I guess the question becomes for me is like
Like a
when
class
you,
action.
Exactly. When you open the door, do people just see the opportunity to run through it, or are these people actually legit individuals who actually been through some kind of trauma? I guess that becomes the question.
And that's why I don't like it, because I feel like that it makes people look crazy when they do wait to report.
Yeah.
Like it really casts a bad light on delayed reporting, which does happen because, like you said, people may be working at a job where this happens and they can't lose that job, or maybe they're in the middle of the
you gonna
country.
keep that job.
Yeah,
I
in
like
the middle of
that
the country, there is no other job. I need this job. You know what I mean? So,
And it's rare.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's rare that you see cases like this happen with women. It's very rare. Cause a dude gonna be like the case with the young the boy and his teacher happened a couple months
and
ago.
they're still in
My
love.
man said, "No, we were in a relationship. Like in a relationship."
and they had 3 babies.
What?
They had 3
Yes.
babies. Yes, this is
While he was in school?
I can't remember
Mary
his
Kayla
name.
Turno, and I just can't remember his name. Billy was his name. I don't remember his last name.
Wait, yeah, this recent or this you
No,
talking
this
about
is
some
years ago, but it was like
Yeah.
the
Oh, yeah,
first
yeah,
case
yeah.
like this.
Oh, right,
She went to
right,
jail for it, but
Right.
then they had conjugal visits, and she was pregnant in jail. They got out, they got married. She got out, they got married.
And then
She
it
broke her
happened-
probation. She went back.
But this
Had
happened
more kids.
again, like with another teacher having a relationship with a student, and he was like, "No, we was together in a relationship." And because he was underage, see, it's different because what we view underage and what your state view as underage
True.
is totally different.
Yeah.
So he's 16. In that state, that's the
Consenting
age of consent.
Yeah.
So they couldn't lock her up, but she got fired.
Mm-hmm.
But then you really can't fire her. Like, it's
you
it's
could
the
fire her.
slope.
Yeah, you
But wait,
it's
fire
super
her.
It depends,
slippery.
'cause
But she can't get a job anywhere else. I'm
I about to
sorry.
say, does teachers have a morality clause?
Yeah, yeah.
I about to say,
Right.
teachers have a morality clause, so you can get rid of her
Even
based on.
interstaff relations, you can fire somebody.
Yeah,
because
they
it's
have that
inappropriate.
morality clause that says anything that's immortal
But this is what I'm saying. Like, you're not gonna see like a dude like, nah, shorty raped me.
Yeah, like 20 dudes.
Shorty raped me.
I mean, here's the thing.
Terry Crews was like, yo, my manager grabbed my joint.
Yeah, Terry Crews' situation was a situation where I was kind of sitting there like...
Everybody looked at it crazy. Like, hold on, bro.
Like you bigger than the three of us put together, and you...
Ooh, but see, that's a bad stereotype.
I will agree.
But
Instinctively, that's the way people thought. It was like, Terry Crews was like three dudes put together.
I agree with both views because you got to think about it. He's 6'2", 6'3", 250. All muscle.
Yeah.
If he put his hands, because we talking about a black dude and like a white guy.
Oh yeah, definitely.
He put his hands on him. He's going to jail.
Right.
It don't matter how much it don't matter if he tickled you. Like, it don't matter. You're going to jail. I understand why you didn't put your hands on him, but like you worked with him a little bit after that and waited to fire him. Nah, bro, it was a little funny to me.
Like.
That looked a little funny to me. And then you said he made passes at you before that, and then all of a sudden he just... That mean like you was
early
cool.
in his career? Like, did he feel like he needed this manager?
That's what he said.
That's what Rose McGowan said. She was the first one to really come out, and now people have like written her off as like totally crazy. And she basically came out and started naming names like in 2016, right before Me Too really popped off. And she was saying the same thing about everybody. She said, "This is Hollywood. There's only so many people who hire you. I didn't feel like I could say anything." I mean, that was her same kind of thing when somebody's a manager. Yeah,
but when you saying that about like directors and executive producers, why ain't nobody saying this about casting directors? Because these be the dudes that you actually go sit down with, the ones that actually cast you for the movie.
There are a lot of female casting directors though too.
In the industry, but when you talking about like TV, a lot of these women who are like auditioning for TV. Like, if you go to an executive producer house, and I said this on Monday, if you go to my man's house at midnight, talking about, I'm about to go read a script for you, you look a little cray.
So, okay. So it's just what's...
You know what?
I hear you.
And on that note, we're going to take our first break, and when we come back, we're going to have more of the Leadership Blend with the host, Ricardo D. Rice.
Destiny Talk Live is closing out September with a bang. Please join me, Cherry G, and my co-host, Dr. Michael Shiroya, on Thursday, September 27th from 12 noon to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Atlanta NX on IBNXradio.com. We have a full house for you. Come meet Pastor Bobby Elsie, founder of One Body Worship Center and One Body International Fellowship. Jessica L. Frazier, founder and executive director of Straight Street Life Center. Stephen Turner, a freelance writer and comedian that says he is a self-professed hypocrite and overrated underdog. Last but not least, R.J. Hodges, a business development coach and author. Join the conversation and learn how we bring their expertise and talents together and how they are committed to being agents of change. In the meantime, make a great day.
Hey, Shamika.
Hey, Alicia. Hey, guys, make sure you tune in to the Hey Shamika Show
On Wednesdays from 7 to 9 p.m.
on IBNX Radio.
It's a simple song. Yesterday, a man stepped to me and said, how can you smile when your world is crumbling down? I said, here's my secret. When I wanna cry, I take a look around and I see that I'm getting by. And I hold on.
Hey everybody, it's Ricardo D. Rice from the Leadership Blend, airing every Monday from 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. on IBNX Radio Talk NX. All right, everybody, we are back on this Friday edition of the Leadership Blend with your host Ricardo D. Rice and the intern
Ronald Newton
and the correspondent
Double R.
Simone Cherie.
and our special guest.
Jeremy Harp.
All right, so when we left, because that would be a never-ending conversation because we could go around the mulberry bush about allegations and sexual harassment and all these good things. So we're going to segue now into entertainment. All right, so in entertainment,
It's a lot.
yeah,
a
this
lot.
we're gonna try to dissect this, but there's and it's still early, so we're gonna get into it. But okay, so there was new legislation introduced that is pretty much trying to rectify the relationship between artists and big name music companies that stream their music and the royalties that are involved. Is that the best way to explain? Because this is your area. Is that the best way to explain it?
Yeah. It's,
So that's kind of what this it's for.
It's more so for not necessarily the artists, but the pros, which are the publishing companies that actually represent artists, being able to have those publishing companies being able to argue payouts from large streaming services that mostly make their money from paid subscribers. So like Spotify, Pandora. I think the top 5 are like, or 4 or 5, or Apple Music, or Spotify's number 1,
Mhm.
Apple Music,
Pandora's on the
Pandora, Tidal, and then a company called Deezer. So it's being able to track all your money because if you see like you getting .00003 on the dollar or per stream, like by the time you look at your check, if you need 1 million streams to get $5,000, it's like, oh, I don't
All right,
add
so
up.
so to put it in a very laymanish term, when you listen to the music, let's say you have Spotify, which most of us do. Even I finally got hip to it, and I kind of actually like it. When you're listening to Pandora, you're listening to Spotify, and they're just kind of playing your favorite artist, and you're able to go get their full album and all that good stuff. These artists are actually getting paid like 0.2 cents every time it's streamed.
No, .00.
Yeah, like it's
07.
it's that kind of number.
Yeah.
And now everybody's like, okay, well, how are we making money? My music's being played and it's popular, but they have no real incentive to actually buy it because I can go to Spotify and just keep it in
And
rotation,
stream
keep
the
it
whole
streaming
thing.
as much as I want to without having to actually buy it. So now it's caused this clash between these industries. So on Tuesday evening, the Music Modernization Act was introduced in honor of, which actually they renamed it to the Orrin G. Hatch Music Modernization Act at the 23rd hour, in honor of retiring Utah politician who also happens to have a platinum record himself. And basically what they're saying is they're going to create a whole different monitoring body to kind of decipher who should get paid what and why they should get paid and so on and so forth.
No,
So-
how they should get paid.
Yeah, how they should get paid.
So who and how is like a weird argument because think about this. All right, it's 5 people in this room right now. If all 5 of us have a streaming service, so you got Spotify, I got Apple Music, you got Spotify, you got Spotify, you got Spotify. I think the rate that you're paying is probably around $11. I would say that would be the average.
If you're paying for it, because I don't pay for
I paid. So you got the trial.
No, actually, it's more than a
He
trial.
has the
You
free
just
basic
have the basic
thing.
package.
Oh,
ads.
so basic with the
Pay for the
ads
record.
is free.
Yeah.
But I pay $10 a month for Apple Music. So 100 million people pay $10 a month for Apple Music. It's about 2 to 3 times that pay for Spotify. For all those paid subscribers that you have, because YouTube probably has the most viewership with almost 1 billion viewers and maybe about 100 to 200 million paid subscribers. And that's because YouTube Music, YouTube Red for movies. Like, it's very, very low. But if you're talking about 1 billion people can stream your music, the numbers that you getting paid don't even make sense. Like, the money that you're actually getting paid doesn't make sense. And then the argument becomes not even just the artist and what they're getting paid. It becomes the label and then the publishing company and then the artist. Because if you spend a certain amount of money out of your budget. So say your budget is $500,000. Production will eat up most of that. If you're not writing your music, then it'll eat up the rest of that. And then you got engineering, mixing, mastering, radio, marketing, all of that. So your $500,000 budget is gone. Most artists don't ever save on their budget, and they're usually in the red. By the time you look at the streaming services, if you need 1 million streams just to make $5,000 and you're in the red $500,000, you never see a check. That means that every single song on your album has to go platinum. And then there's a rule in the industry that if you make more than 14 songs, everything after that 14 is basically for free.
Really?
Wow.
For free.
When they start that?
Maybe like a couple years ago. When streaming became super popular, because if you go back to 2010, 2009, 10, 11, 12, you would see albums with 18, 19.
Yeah.
Wayne
Or
last
two
album had
sides.
20,
Two sides.
20 songs on the album. Now you're so far in the red that you have to create multiple bodies of work just to make up your budget. That's not even to get paid. You have to make up your budget. So like you see with the last Drake album, his budget probably was an unlimited budget, but a lot of his production came from the same person. He had a few producers on the album. It's not like a whole bunch of producers. Maybe 5 or 6 producers. But it's 36 songs or something like that, 35 songs on 2 albums. You release 2 bodies of work. You got a platinum record, that's 10 million records sold. Well, 10 million records sold, what does that look like in streaming numbers? Well, he did 100 million streams first week. He broke Post Malone's record, who did 89 million streams first week, which was the most streaming that we had seen at that time. He did 100 million streams in a week, but 4 of his records was already platinum. So that's 40 million already gone. And if you're talking about you only getting paid 0.007% for every stream that you're getting paid. He needed his whole first album. He dropped 2 albums. He needs his whole first album to go platinum just to make back his budget, because his budget unlimited.
Well, so one of the things that I do, so I don't know if you guys follow like stock markets and stuff like that, but I actually bought the Spotify stock, and so I had to like do a lot of research in it. And a lot of times the companies aren't making profits because it costs so much money to lay the foundation for us to have this app, for them to have the servers, for them to pay the people to code the things and to like all this stuff. That from a business perspective, they have still not made a profit. And
yeah, they breaking even.
Sure.
Right, and barely breaking even, if that. And so, and they're the number 1 streaming service. You know, Apple Music just came out. Spotify really just had their IPO a few months ago. So it's one of those things where this is still, I think, a new technology. So it's more expensive. So once they get used to it, they can bring the price down. And then, I'm not saying that it's right to pay them 0.0007.
But that's like the argument.
I'm saying,
like nobody will argue
one's
with
making
Apple
money.
because Apple been selling your music for years.
Taylor Swift argued with Apple.
She argued with Apple because her album was platinum in like a couple days. Like she was killing. Her
fans
last
buy
2
yeah.
is the album before the last 2 albums. So 3 albums ago. When you going platinum same day and you get your check back, it's like $14,000. But you're platinum, you're Taylor Swift. Now I'm looking at everybody crazy.
Yeah.
Everybody owe me money.
I get it.
And she's suing everybody. But when you think about like how many people get paid before artists get paid, it's like, nah, you got to really look at it. So like one of my favorite examples when I explain this to people is like Lil Uzi Vert, the song XO Tour Life.
Okay.
So XO Tour Life, I think they said it made about close to $5 million. He got paid $900,000.
So
that's after 2 years of the song being out. He didn't see a check for almost 2 years. He didn't get paid until last year. XO Tour Life was on his album, but the song was out almost a year before that. So like he dropped a mixtape. A couple months later, he went on tour with Drake. During the tour, that song came out. And it was already one of the biggest songs in the country before the end of the year. So by the time he see a full year of revenue, he only get paid $9,000.
Jesus.
I really was wondering why albums seem shorter. I've really been like, because I've noticed this, I think, for the last couple big albums. I'm just like, why is there 10 songs? Why is there 11 songs? Why is there 10 songs?
Well, I was either wondering that or why artists were releasing 1 or 2 albums at the same time. It's like, so why are we releasing 2 albums at the same time?
Because you can make back your budget and then get paid.
I thought,
Gotcha.
is Drake trying to get out of his contract?
No,
Something
this
like that?
was was supposedly the last album under contract, but he got another album coming this year. So,
What?
Yeah.
So you only have like 3 months left.
I have a question. If you're on Drake's level, if you're at that level, why do you even have management like that?
Why do you have a deal?
Yeah.
Well, there are things that, and I didn't understand this for a long time, but I started to realize it with like artists like Jay-Z. Jay-Z, he after Reasonable Doubt, he technically didn't need Def Jam, but Def Jam was one of the biggest labels at the time. I don't think he needed it. This is my opinion. But then when you saw the progress of the music that he released after that, it wasn't the same. So you don't really see like a big step for Jay-Z until Blueprint. So like in between that, you got like the Dynasty album with the whole Rockefeller, and then you got like Volume 1 and Volume 2, and there's still some hits in there. You get Hard Knock Life is in there. It's a bunch of records in there, but you don't see that real step until Reasonable Doubt. And then when you look at these great grand labels, you like, oh nah, Jay-Z, that's my favorite artist. He was signed Def Jam. I'm gonna go to Def Jam. The regime that was at Def Jam ain't at Def Jam. And when you like we was talking about with Vigilante, if everybody, it's like quarter cycles. I'm only here for a quarter. I don't know how long I'm gonna have this job. That's what the government look like. I don't know how long I'm gonna have this job. So let's get the check up while we're here. Let's try to run it up. We're not gonna follow through. So if we got something that if we don't get to it, we just don't get to it. But let's run it up while we're here. And you see that with these labels, and even with this act, why it reads the way it reads is because they're starting to realize like these dudes don't stay in these jobs that long. You get paid to go on the job to like hold that seat down until another job come open. So you'll see a dude come from downstairs that ran your mail, and then next thing you know, he the president of A&R.
And that's even more why I'm just like, at that point, I'm sure you have enough relationships as an artist, or even if you don't, you have enough clout that it's like, why do you even need to worry about what the label could do for you? Like, can't you just be in like people come to me situation ever?
I think it's the relationships. Me personally, I would assume that it's the relationship because I think that somebody like Jay, who now just releases through Rock Nation, because that's his label.
Title.
Somebody like Wayne, who I personally believe could be independent, but would take a deal because he's never been independent. He's never had to move independently on his own. Like, you was in a group, and then like you were solo, but you was signed to the label that the group was signed to. And when you was popping, somebody else was popping, and then you got popping, then you put somebody else on, and they was popping, but all y'all signed to the same label. Like, it's
like
I think it's like a relationship thing. There are certain artists I think could just step out and just be good. I think that Drake would be one of them. I don't know how his relationships are built. I don't know if they're built on the relationships through his label, like with touring and all, because he sells well on the road, but we don't know what that actually looked like.
Is that one thing, the logistics of it? So imagine trying to do a nationwide or world tour and
Gotcha.
you're solo.
Yes,
it's
a
like,
lot of that.
I need help,
Lots of
you
that.
know? There's a certain price I'm willing to pay someone else
Gotcha.
to manage that if it makes me more money, if I can just sit back and hang out.
But we don't know if I don't think it makes him more money. I think it just doesn't cost him more money.
Yeah. Because
I think as a solo artist, speaking for myself as an independent, it costs more money to track all that stuff. Because if it's just the label would do that. It looked like this. This would be the label, and they do all that work. If I got to do it, all I got to do is we have this relationship. Either I get paid, or they take that money out of my budget, or take it out of what I'm gonna get paid, and then they go make it happen.
Well, I think that's the difference, though. I think
If
that
it's
having
coming
a
out of my
label
pocket.
behind you, they cut all the upfront costs. So if you're going to go on tour, we already cover that because we'll get it back when you come back. When the tour's over with, we'll recoup all our money. So I think that's one of the bigger factors is having that front end taken care of versus being independent. Like when you just did yours, like you had to cover everything.
Yeah, and
so
and,
you had a
and
label.
it's certain artists, because a lot of artists, the label doesn't front them. It's the tour. So like Live Nations. Live Nation cut $250 million check Jay-Z and Beyonce. They know they're going to make that money back.
Yeah, definitely. And then some.
They know they're going to make that money back. How many cities y'all doing? How many shows y'all doing? All right, cool. So we'll estimate that you're going to sell out in every single city. It's Beyonce. Right. It's Jay-Z. Their numbers have always looked good.
And put them
aside
together.
from being together.
Exactly.
But then you put them together and you say, all right, we're going to give you a test run. We're going to give you this amount of money to go do a test run in a couple cities. Because you're talking about a 4-hour show.
Is that long?
From what I've heard, it's a 3.5 hour show. They have catalogs to do 3-hour shows just by themselves.
Alone
just by
do a
themselves.
3-hour show.
20 years. She got her first album came out in 97. His first album came out in 96. So we talking about 20 years of music that they could literally be like, nah, I'm going to go out, I'm going to do this real quick. I'm good. So, no, we're going to go test it. Let's go see if people will stand up in an arena for 3 hours. Oh, they will. And they'll pay as much money as we ask them for the tickets. Very true. So we talking about like Z tickets is $500. Same day, $500. Front row tickets up to 10 bands. We're going to make this money back. We can give y'all $120 million. We ain't worried about none of that. We ain't worried about y'all selling no merch. We ain't worried about none of that. We're going to make our money just on the arena itself, selling drinks, and charging whatever we want for tickets. So we got a celebrity that's coming to see y'all. Oh, no, it's 50,000. Like floor seats at a game. Championship? Nah, it's 50,000. Oh, just to sit close to the court? 50,000. It's cool. It's just 50.
But then that's the industry of entertainment, because even with the interview with, everybody got caught up in the latter part of the interview with Frank Ski and Cat Williams and Wanda. But Cat Williams was saying something like, he was talking about the Netflix thing in Monique, and he was saying that was their issue with Monique. They go by, he said he had his tour and he sold, I think, 2 million. So there were like 2 million tickets available. He said when Monique did her tour, there was only 300,000 tickets available, and she didn't sell out. So he was like, that's the way Netflix decides how much they're going to pay you. They watch your latest tour, see how many tickets you sold, how much money you brought in, and then that's the offer they make you.
And that's a great segue, because the Breakfast Club interview came out this morning with Kevin Hart and Tiffany Haddish, and Kevin said that's not how they actually do it. But Netflix has come out and totally told people that is exact. Like, I don't want to argue with somebody like this Kevin. So if Kevin say that they don't, he said that's not how they do it. He also said that Cat Williams didn't sell 2 million tickets on his last tour, which he said is Googleable. I would assume that for the last 3 years since Cat Williams been out of jail, he's been on tour.
Yeah.
So if he say he sold 2 million on the last tour, but he toured for 3 years, I would assume that he probably right.
Yeah, I wasn't going to refute his facts, because it sounded about right when he said it.
Because he's been on tour. Right. We're not talking like, no, this year I'm touring and then next year.
Yeah,
he's talking about the same tour.
Can we backtrack and you tell me what you thought about that interview, though? Because I don't think we got to talk about it.
So
did we get into it on Monday?
Frank and Wanda?
No.
All right, so Frank and... Oh, okay. So we're going to get back into that. Not long, because we do have to get into Jeremy. But when we get back, we're going to look into this Frank and Wanda and Cat Williams debacle. So stick around on the Leadership Blend with your host, Ricardo D. Rice.
I can say that you're wonderful, but it doesn't seem good enough. I can say that you're kind, but that would miss the mark. I can say that you're beautiful, but to me you are so much more. How do I communicate exactly who you are? I'm trying to convey the sentiment of my heart and say I really do appreciate the way you brighten up my day. I can't find
more time, I would go down the line and name all the things that captivate my heart. But clearly I'm not aware of words that can compare. How do I communicate exactly who you are? I'm trying to convey the sentiments of my heart and say I really do appreciate the way you brighten up my day. Oh, I can't find the words to describe you. It would take a million years to explain the way I feel. Lord, you are the epitome of everything I'll ever need. I'm so in love with you. Lord, you leave me speechless. Oh, I traveled every corner of my mind. Yes, I did. And found there's no expression that can define the way you care for me throughout the hands of time. I'm searching for a word to say that you take my breath away. I can't find the
Listening to IBNX. IBNXradio.com. The station with the best music. Best music.
I love the music.
Best music.
Hey, what's up? It's Jay-Z.
Hey, I'm Mariah Carey.
Hey, it's Katy Perry.
It's your boy T.I.P., man. Get in. It's your boy Sean Kingston.
What's up, y'all? I'm Beyonce. This is Nicki Minaj, and I'm in the mix with
IBNX Radio.
Everybody, it's Ricardo D. Rice from the Leadership Blend, simplifying your leadership. All right, we are back on this Friday edition of the Leadership Blend with my correspondents
Double R.
Simone Cherie.
and our very special guest.
Jeremy Harp.
All right, so we're in the entertainment segment. I'm not going to stay too long because y'all cutting into Jeremy's time. But we do want to get...
You know the clock, Ron.
That's why it's so hard to know.
All right, so about a week or two ago, Cat Williams went on the Frank and Wanda show, and, you know, he went as Cat Williams. I will say when I watched the interview, it seemed like a side of Cat I'd never seen. He seemed very serious. He seemed very adamant. I will agree with Jeremy. We were on the break. You said it seemed like he had axe to grind. He really kind of did. So they asked him about Tiffany Haddish, and that segued him to talk about Tiffany Haddish and Kevin Hart and all them. So what he said about Tiffany Haddish was, I think Wanda asked him, how did you like her in Girls Trip? And Kevin said, I liked the script when I saw it in 2004. And his argument was, you put her with Queen Latifah, Regina Hall, Regina Hall, and Jada Pinkett. He was like, you could have put anybody in that role, and they could have shined. And he said the only reason that people like Tiffany Haddish is because she's always talking about sleeping with white men or being married to them in her television shows, which on the break, Double R did point out, in her television shows, she is typically married to non-African American males. He went on to say that, it was kind of, I couldn't believe he said it, that America only wants to listen and laugh with attractive comedians. So he was saying that's why Little Duval, Kevin Hart, they're all unattractive guys. That's why they haven't, or something to that extent. It was something to that extent.
He said they're
He
ugly.
pretty much said they were ugly. Then it got really awkward because him and Wanda kept going back and forth and insulting each other to the point where Frankie was kind of sitting there and was like, we're going to go on break. And they just kept going. And then apparently after that, Wanda's husband pulled a gun on him. And it just became this whole debacle. Personally, when it comes to Tiffany Haddish, I don't personally find her funny. Sometimes I think she borderlines being offensive. I remember when she did, I believe, was the Oscars, and she lifted her dress and ran over the red carpet to speak to someone. I think sometimes it gets into borderline slapstick comedy, and what we used to call blackface. I can't get with it. Kevin Hart, I do like Kevin Hart. I do think he's funny. I think in the same lines along with Tiffany Haddish, I think sometimes they go too far to get a laugh. But, you know, I like them both. I'm not bowled over by Tiffany Haddish because, you know.
I guess no one is. We just took a survey. Nobody really loves.
I mean, she cool.
Right.
Yeah,
She cool.
I just don't feel like she's real. That's really how she behaves. That's just not how she.
And
acts. That's how she talks.
I want to like kind of a little bit clear. So what happened in the interview is they asked Kat about Tiffany when he was talking about Lunel. Now anybody that knows like black comedy,
you have to know black comedy.
Lunel,
and
you know
female.
Red, and you know Leslie Jones. These are all people that came up under Kat that every tour that he toured with the same people every time. And all of his stand-up specials, you're going to see Lunel, you're going to see Kat, you're going to see Leslie. Not now with Leslie because Leslie going up. She going crazy.
Well, he
on
got some
Saturday
other
Night
ones.
Live.
So I think then he went back farther. So it was the Cheryl Underwood.
Cheryl,
I can't remember
the
the other
Queens
one.
of Comedy.
Macharchi something. I can't remember her name.
Melanie Camacho.
Yeah, he called her name. And
Like,
you
it's
have to know black comedy to know these chicks.
It's a lot of them that came up under Kat, that came out with Kat, that toured with him, and they all toured, got money. And I think that I watched the Kevin Hart and Tiffany Haddish interview this morning, and it gave a different side of the perspective.
Yeah,
but
I haven't
understand.
seen that. So what did they say?
So basically, Kevin Hart was refuting the information. So he was saying that Kat didn't sell $2 million on the road. That Tiffany deserved everything. I love her story.
I like her
I
hustle.
think
You can't ever
I
like
do
somebody's
think that she
hustle,
worked hard to get where she is.
Well, they said she's done stand up.
She been doing stand up since she was 16. She was homeless. She was broke.
Sure.
She was this and that. That's a great story. It could be a documentary or a movie. It's a great story. But in the world of comedy, the number one thing that you have to be in comedy is funny.
Yes.
Yeah.
You
and
have
one
to
thing,
be
One
funny.
thing I didn't agree with what Kat said, and it kind of confused. He was like, "This should not be an industry where your looks have to matter like that. Like it has to be all about attractive female
'cause he
comedians."
said that
And I was
too.
like, "Since when?" Because every comedian
Cheryl Underwood said
that
the
I can
same thing,
think
though.
of
What?
is usually a little like the way you look is part of sometimes what makes you funny. Sometimes just looking at somebody is just funny. Like.
But does that
Pete
get you
Davidson's
a
not
role,
even
too?
a comedian, but the way he looks to me is laughable. Like sometimes the way you look,
Yeah,
is
he looked
funny.
like an alien. But
Yeah.
what-
So your
Pete
appearance
Davidson.
can be a part of, you know what I'm saying?
I said
Like,
that. I said that on Monday. But Cheryl Underwood said the same thing, that she didn't think she was getting a lot of looks because she isn't the most attractive. Like if you look at Cheryl Underwood, she just got on TV and she been doing this since the early 90s.
yes.
She was touring with Bernie Mac.
And she was
and them.
hosting some of those comedic platforms.
BT.
Comic View. She did
Comic
Comic View
View, like-
a number of years.
And she said it like, I think that, me personally, I think that if you look over time, a lot of the most funny comedians weren't super attractive.
No, they were not.
They weren't.
Yeah.
They were always the most funny.
Yeah.
They weren't. They
Yeah.
weren't the most attractive.
Yeah.
But
Bernie
then that
Mac.
brings you to why they were funny, because a lot of times, when you're
times
in
they had
school,
something weird,
it's a
you know what I
defense
mean?
mechanism.
Right.
You know, I can
Yeah,
learn to be
I can
funny.
always
I
jump.
can deflect from the
Right.
fact that you're constantly picking on me.
Like a lot of people hate on Chappelle. Chappelle like a weird looking
He
guy,
was very weird.
very
He
weird.
looked like
Especially
Gumby, like
now,
a black
but
Gumby.
he's
when he was younger.
hilarious.
He is.
And a
don't
lot
find him
of
funny
a
one
lot
bit.
of comedians
What?
don't like Dave Chappelle
I don't
because
think he's funny.
they think that is
Yeah.
white comedy. The
It's-
thing about Chappelle is an incredible writer. So when
Yes.
you look at
He
the
is.
comedy and then he present it to you, you know it's hilarious.
It's not white comedy to me.
It's not white
If
comedy.
you're sensitive, then you would say that. But he slings at all colors, which is
It's
what I love.
hilarious.
I think
Yeah,
he's
love
also
it.
encourages people to like look at themselves and in a funny way.
Mm-hmm.
It's like with his stand up when Chappelle show, it's just like hilarious. Some
He
things I
kills
don't
me.
even get until like 3 months later. I'm like, man, that was funny. I don't-
Still
I-
one of
I-
the
I-
funniest
I just now
skits.
get it.
When he was a blind black guy and he didn't know he was black.
Clayton Big.
That is still that's still hilarious. Like walking in on a Klan meeting, he didn't know he was black. Every time I think about that episode, it is hilarious. And it kind of brought up new guys. Him bringing in guys like Key and Peele and other comedians that had sketch shows. Afion Crockett is one of those guys. Weird looking guy, not super attractive, but he is hilarious.
Right.
Like, and he had a sketch show. So it's like, I think that all those great guys like help build up to this. And I think it's kind of like a gripe that those guys internally have.
Yeah,
Like
sure,
I
yeah,
don't think
That's
that Kat got a problem with Kevin. But I think that some of the things that Kat said are some of the same things that other people said. Cheryl Underwood said the same thing.
Yeah.
I can still go to comedy clubs, but me shooting a special, I got to do it myself. I wouldn't refute that, because if you talk about when these folks can give you the type of money, how much money have you made on the road? I don't think Monique's ever done an arena tour.
What is it? Is it more like a gender thing? 'Cause I think Kat also said that women have it tougher because you have to try to do both. You have to be attractive and funny.
But I think
like
that's
the men
Hollywood
can be
too.
unattractive, but then the women you have to have.
Oh, he said that the
things.
men have to be
ugly.
Well, he said the women have to be
attractive.
Oh man,
attractive and funny.
Right,
he said light skin, which I was like, Tiffany's not light, but anyway.
Did he say light skin?
He said light skin.
I know he said that men have to be the kind of man that every man wants to be, and a woman has to be.
I heard the opposite.
Yeah,
it was something to that extent. It was something to
but
that
it's
extent.
like that's Hollywood too. Like there's a lot more famous male actors that look that aren't attractive than there are famous female actresses that are ugly. Like you don't get just the number if you just look at the ratio. Like most women are, you know what I mean?
Well, I mean, if you get into where we talking about like Nicki Minaj and I don't think
that.
it was really Cardi, but just other rappers in general showing having to not only be able to rap, but to be able to somebody they want to they look they have to have.
Everybody want to touch you
or want to feel you or put a post
versus like Remy or versus Rod Digger or versus
exactly.
You know what I mean? They just
don't have the same look. All the time in her rap, she'd be like, yeah, they had a pinup poster and other little stuff that she would say.
She's cute.
My favorite song was How Many Licks, so she referred to that in that song by having the poster up and in jail and so on and so forth. So I will agree with that. I think it is a little harder for females to break in the industry in general because the requirements are so different.
I agree.
So,
I agree.
They got some like, and I think Kat and Kevin both kind of made this point. Put people on. I think that the light that Kevin has now is the light that Kat had. I don't ever think that Kat would have been in as many movies. I think because a lot of the movies that Kat were a part of are like cult classics.
Yeah.
Fridays.
Right.
He's been in a lot of movies that are revered as cult classics.
Yeah.
I don't think that Kevin Hart could have been in a movie like Hangover.
I think he could, but Kevin Hart's a businessman too, so I also feel like there's no respect for that.
don't
Like
think
Kevin
that
Hart has a much bigger vision than just comedy as well.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean?
That's true.
But
he does put comedians on with the heart of the city, and like he's trying to do that in a more public way. But then, like you said, it also seems to be more of a business, like building an empire.
And he loves all films, and he's trying to make films that are not just comedic films. Like he wants to make dramas, he wants to do all of it. So.
And that's what I'm saying. Like I think that they can occupy the same space, but I don't think that their vision was ever the same.
No.
I think for Kat, it is strictly about comedy.
Yeah.
How many comedians
writing,
can I bring on the road? And the thing that I respect about Kat is that the people that people didn't want, they always on tour with them.
Yeah.
True.
This
like
is true.
if you look at Lou Nell is
and she's hilarious.
I take her down.
She's hilarious.
But she's not attractive.
She's a little vulgar to me.
She's
I
not
take her
very
down
attractive,
because she's
but,
super nasty.
But she works.
She's nasty.
I feel like she is.
Literally.
I think that works for.
She nasty. I like
You know
that.
what I mean? I think it worked.
She was actually just on Braxton Family Values with Tracy because they went on strike.
She
so
nasty.
Tracy was the only one left.
She is.
So Phaedra, Linnell, they were all on Braxton Family Values.
And she hilarious, but she's one of those women. You don't see her in a lot of movies. She's been in cult classics to us.
Yeah.
Like we look at
Black
her
famous.
like as a comedian in movie and Cat in like the same way that we see like Lisa Ray, cult classic movies.
Yeah, they're not
like what's his name?
blockbuster people.
Dang, I forget his name. The guy that's married to.
Who?
I'm gonna think about it in a minute. What is his name?
The guy that's married.
He was on the what's the girl from My Wife and Kids? What's her?
Tisha Campbell.
Her husband.
Oh, Dwayne Martin.
Him. Lot of cult classic movies.
Yeah.
Lot of them. Like Tony Rock, cult classic. He's not the guy that you see.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about comedy, you can't argue. You ain't gonna argue it. Like, nah, we know. Yeah. When he go on the road, he show up, I'm gonna go pay for them tickets. Right. But I think the star of Kevin Hart, the blockbuster films, the dissing.
And he's a hustler too. He's been at it for a long time. I love and respect.
And then you
Kevin
got to look
Hart
at the
so
times. Like it was a different time, so they had to go into underground comedy clubs and kind of hope for something to kind of spill
And
over.
Or maybe two
versus
short
at the
men
right
just
time.
can't occupy the same space.
You really went there? You really went there.
I mean,
You're
maybe,
fired.
I mean, maybe.
You're fired.
First of all, nobody included you in the conversation.
But Kevin,
You're
Kevin
fired.
popped
I
up.
took offense to it. I'm short. I took offense to it.
But you
You're
taller
fired,
than both of
Simone.
them.
This
You
is
are,
Simone's
you are,
last
you
day.
are.
You taller
not,
than
not even
both
by
of them.
comparison. Not even by comparison.
Well, that
But
means
I
you have to
just
be as
feel
short
like-
as Kirk Franklin because God knows Kirk Franklin is short.
I was
Yeah,
just
Kurt Franklin like
surprised.
5'3".
I feel
No,
like
I don't know
Cat,
if he's that. Kirk Franklin's like 4'11". He's short.
he be getting
I
hyped,
was
though.
on
He
Sunday's
get
Best
hyped, though.
taping. He is short.
I just feel like Cat is established enough. I was surprised to hear him going like that. But we can transition. I was surprised. I didn't think that. I feel like somebody at his level, like to be spending, he had a lot to say about it. Like he's been thinking about this for. He's felt
Yeah,
this way
it
for a long
wasn't-
time. So to me, it's just like that's like.
But
the
look
kind
at
of
his
thing you hear.
interviews. Look at past interviews. He's been talking like that. He
buying
been
that.
talking like that.
I'm not buying it. I rescind my statement. Kirk Franklin is 5'5". I'm sorry, Kirk. I love you.
Oh, he said
But
4'11".
He is short. He's short.
You took half a foot off his knee.
He's
But
short.
you still taller than him, so that's all that matters. As long as you're
That's all
taller.
that matters.
All right, so one more thing before we segue it to Jeremy. So this whole thing is not a rare occurrence because Chevy Chase did the same thing about SNL. He went in about the people and how SNL has pretty much gone to hell since he left, and he just started naming names. And it was it was horrendous. He was like, since he left, he said, I think the 2 years after he left, it was okay, but ever since then, it's just kind of gone
It's
to hell.
been weird.
And he didn't even call like new people. He called people that had been
Yeah.
in his field at the same time. I was blown away. I just didn't expect it. I
Look
was blown away.
at look at when Jim Carrey told the story about when he tried to get on SNL and how they turned him down.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
I didn't
Yeah.
know about that.
because he was in Living Color, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he did. He started to live in color.
Did they turn him down?
Yeah, they turned him down for SNL, and Living Color was like, nah, this new young guy.
Yeah,
a lot of
Living Colour.
a lot of the great comedians that we know, they were not on the big platform.
True.
That is true.
Jamie Foxx, one of the most revered, he played Ray.
Right.
Facts.
Like he played Ray. Like
I think
Come
he has
on, man.
underrated vocals too.
yeah,
Very.
nah,
When I tell you Jamie Foxx can sing, Jamie
he's
Foxx
super
can sing.
talented, and that's why go back to the other segment we was talking about that girl. Like that's why he put her on blast like that. Like he put her on blast, extra blast.
But I think that's the thing that always hurt me about Jamie Foxx. I didn't feel like I felt like Jamie Foxx could have been a great R&B singer and been one of the people we put on the same pedestal with R. Kelly. And I think that he decided to go
Nah, he was doing. He
But
was doing.
film,
I think he
film
was
has
doing
been
too
good
much.
to him.
very good.
He was doing too much.
What do you
Because you
mean?
got to think about the beginning of his R&B career. His first album came out in '94
Oh,
when he was on In Living Color.
because he had the song "Infatuation," which I still have in love. Oh my God, it was an amazing song.
Was it '94? Because his first
It
special
was in
came
the
out.
90s.
I
Because
think
it was
his first special
Infatuation
came out when he was on TV already. So it might have been like
during the
mid
Jamie
90s.
Foxx show.
Mid 90s, and then
Yeah.
he did a couple specials after that. I Need Security. He did a couple special, and he was already popping. But he was on In Living Color, and then he got all these big acting roles. So music wasn't.
Yeah, it
We
wasn't.
always knew he was super talented, but music
I
wasn't.
know, but I would have
The focus.
He could have done it though. He would have. I
He
think
he got the hits.
That's
though.
how I feel about Tyrese. I feel like Tyrese has underrated vocals.
I did not realize that Tyrese had only had his
Can
first #1
sing.
album with Black Rose. I did not know that. Like he had his first Billboard 200 with Black Rose. You know how long he's been doing music?
And that was an independent album.
Really?
I didn't know that.
I didn't
He
know
released
that.
that album independent. His last
Wow.
two albums were released
Think he's
independent.
That sucks because Tyrese came out like 2000.
2000.
Oh, yeah.
Like 90.
Yeah,
His,
2000.
It
his
like
commercial
2000.
was 1994.
Yeah, but his album, that album.
Yeah, that first
like
album
that
was
first album didn't
99,
come out to
2000.
like 2000.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
All right, we're done with that. All right, so we're going to segue to the important stuff.
Yes.
So today we have college preparatory expert. I want to say guru, but we'll save that. We'll say expert/guru, Mr. Jeremy Harp. All right, so I'll let you take it. So I'll let you start it how you want to start it.
All
Where you
right.
want to start at?
So I think the thing that I always ask people is to think about their own college preparation advice or the path that they took. You know, mine wasn't that great. You know, I'm from the Atlanta area, went to Banneker High School in College Park, and I didn't really have that teacher or counselor to sort of like help me as much as I needed to know all the things that I wish I had known at the time. So that's really what I try to do is encourage people, and I like to sort of hear y'all.
So how'd you get to Yale?
Of college preparation?
Because you went to Yale.
Can you let him tell his
I'm
story?
sorry, I'm
Jeez.
sorry.
Yeah, I still don't know where Banneker is.
It's right by the airport, just south of 285.
He was south of 20 then, and he went to Yale. So I was,
I did.
Can you let the
I'm
man
sorry.
tell it? Rude.
Well, one, my mom was an elementary school teacher, so I went to elementary school with my mom and then high school with my dad. So
Oh,
I
wow.
kind of had no choice but to be at least good at school, or at least fake
Okay.
it. And so I did all the things that I needed to do. I had my grades up, and essentially I got lucky because I did a summer program the year before my senior year at Yale, where I got to stay on campus for a month and take classes and meet the students. And if you haven't seen Yale's campus, it's gorgeous. It's absolutely beautiful. And so once I got there, I was like, I love it. And so I didn't get a chance to really compare myself with these other, North County, sort of students. And so that was the first time where I got to compare myself and be like, not only am I just as smart as you, I'm smarter than you. And I come from this South Fulton school, this all black school,
Yeah.
and I'm teaching you how to do stuff. So I know that, I got a good education. I'm going to be applying to some good schools, and that's what I did.
if I was wearing a hat, I'd tip it to you. That's what's up. That's what's up. So when you say prep, my first thing was I was thinking about tests. And you were talking about finances earlier, like loans and just like the general preparedness of what students are getting into. But my first thought was just like testing. Like I thought that's all college prep was. So is prep like how comprehensive? What does prep mean?
Prep starts, day one of ninth grade, because that's when all colleges start to evaluate you as an applicant. So my book that I have goes through each of the things that colleges look at most, and it's mostly your GPA is the number one thing, and then it's test prep. But then after that, it's your passions. What are you passionate about? And that's one thing that people sort of skip over is, they don't really care what you're passionate about. They just want to see you're passionate about something. And that's something that a lot of people don't really show, and so they don't sometimes get into the schools that they could because they don't do that.
Okay.
So it's like the summer program. That was something that it was with like politics and law and stuff like that, and that's how I was able to prove to Yale that I was interested in that, because I just spent 4 weeks on their campus learning about it.
So do you work with like a lot of like lower classmen, like 9th grade, 10th grade? Do you spend most of your time on 12th grade? And like, is it the case that just schools just don't have those resources? Is it about money that people have to find experiential college prep? Because as far as I can remember, there was always like a service that offered college prep, but our schools never did. Is there no schools that offer college prep?
Honestly, the counselors just don't have time. Like, they're just overworked and underpaid and all this stuff where they just can't manage it. Like, there were 4 counselors in my 1,200 student high school, and it's hard to manage all of that. So they're mostly focused on you graduating. So you need to make sure that you can have all the classes you need to graduate. And then they're doing that for hundreds of students at the same time. And you have to be like, not only do you have to graduate, but now I have to have individualized attention for each one of these hundreds of students for 4 straight years.
And I never understood that. Like, I went to a school, we only had 2 counselors. Like, when I graduated from Southside, we literally only had 2 counselors. And one of them was pregnant. So, I don't even... why is it that schools don't offer, like, why would it not be specific, like specific counselors
Sounds like
for
its own
specific
job.
grades, or like,
Because it is a lot of work. And if you think about it, even with one grade being a couple hundred students, even if you had one person per grade, that's still one person for 200 students having to say, all right, let me evaluate all of you and where you're going on your trajectory to college. And there's just a lot of things that people just don't know. So one of the things so whenever anyone talks to me about what college they want to go to, I ask them, 5 things. It's 1, can you get in? Because if you can't get into the school, nothing else about it really matters, And so first you have to understand that. Then the second one is graduation rates, and that's something that disproportionately impacts, people of color and African Americans, because, I want you to guess what the average graduation rate is for the state of Georgia. Like, how many, like, out of 100 students who start freshman year, what percentage of them will graduate in 4 years?
Probably 33.
when I graduated from high school, we didn't have enough to make our student number.
Yeah.
Our graduation year, we didn't have enough.
Yeah. So from college.
Wait, so what's the number?
This is from college. So this is about 40% of students who enter college will graduate in 4 years, and so that's even worse for African Americans. It's probably like nationally like 17% or 20%.
Oh, good Lord. Are you serious?
Like so what happens is schools will admit you and give you loans, and then when you don't graduate, you don't. So not only do you not have the degree, but now you're paying off loans for a degree that you don't have. And so that's part of the reason why I started this, is to educate people on the front end in ninth grade, so that they don't end up either going to colleges that they can't afford or going to colleges that have terrible dropout rates.
So do you think that kids are ready? Like, are ninth graders and 10th graders ready to do that? Because I remember when I was in ninth grade, and I think for like 2 minutes, they introduced like this IB program, which I think is AP in other places, but basically like an honors program. Somebody came into the general classroom, was just kind of like, okay, there's an IB track. It's really important for college. All you have to do is come on the weekends, do some community service. You'll have to write an extra paper on top of all of your classes, and then you get to call yourself an honor student. And I was 14, like, why in the hell would I agree to something like that? And that was it. It never went to my parents. Nobody ever could like intervene. They had one conversation with us, and my 14-year-old mind was like, well, that's easy. No, I don't want anything to do with it.
Right.
And then you find out later, like,
dang, I did not do that.
Dang, and I didn't find out until I got to Atlanta Public Schools that AP was that important. Because when I went to DeKalb County, I was in DeKalb County, I went to Columbia. I was taking AP courses. I didn't know that. So I didn't know Trig was an AP course in Atlanta Public Schools, because I went to a private school. So I took algebra, algebra 2, and statistics in middle school.
Ooh.
Geometry in middle school.
Let me
So
find out
by
you
the
a
time,
math nerd.
no, by the time I got to high school, I didn't know that you had to have credit from one county to another county for that class.
Right.
I took it in middle school. It didn't matter when I was in DeKalb County.
Same thing.
When I got to Atlanta, no, you have to have that credit to graduate from high school in Atlanta.
Yes.
I didn't have to take the class, but I ended up having to take, like I said before, Spanish, which was an elective in DeKalb County, but then in Atlanta. So how does that look? Because if the graduation rate is that low, like I know schools used to offer training for technical programs. Why is it? Because I feel like it would be easier for a counselor to say, okay, we have this program. If we want to help you to at least do something after high school or something,
right?
Is it not a way to kind of
like a bridge program?
Yeah,
right. Which is what we call
for college prep.
Well, I think it's honestly just big business, and this is sort of my criticism of it. It makes more money for people to have people drop out and take all these loans than it is to spend the money to guide them in the right direction. And unfortunately, no one's making a big fuss about it, because it's something that a lot of people go through and struggle with, but no one's really talking about it. And that's something that I think is something that we need to move forward and sort of change with that. But I very much encourage people to go to technical schools and go if they're not ready.
Yeah.
That was your question. But yeah, if you're not 100% sure about college, either go to a college that is a 2-year school, a technical school, something that is less expensive. So if you decide you don't like it, you don't have all this debt. Because I have friends who got $100,000 in student loan, didn't graduate, and now they're paying $1,000, $1,500 a month just on student loans, and they don't have a degree to get them a better, higher paying job to help offset that.
So do you work with mostly students who have like great grades, or when you mentioned like for a second that, well, let's see if you can get in, like how often do you have to have that conversation?
That's why I try to encourage to work with anyone. If they're in 8th grade or 7th grade, good grades, bad grades, this is to help any student and any family find their best fit college, because that's not every college is good for every student, and I understand that. But I do think that everyone needs help, and I encourage those students with great grades to apply to Ivy League schools and top tier schools. No one told me to apply to Yale. No one encouraged me to do that. People actually discouraged me from doing it. But
how or by saying what?
Because they're saying, why would you want to go there? Black people don't get in. Black people don't go there.
Like you,
right? But Yale. I joined my frat there. Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity.
I knew it was coming. I was waiting for it. I was waiting for it.
But we've had a chapter there since 1909, meaning there have been black men at least on Yale's campus consistently since then. But you don't really know that. But that's something that I didn't know until I went there. And then second, Yale is a need-based school. So it's not based on how much they charge you. It's based on how much your parents make. And so if you make the households makes less than 65,000, you go to Yale for free.
Yeah, say that again, because I don't think we heard you. Say that again.
Right. So if the household makes less than $65,000 a year, you can go to Yale for free. And they're just free under schools. And University of Pennsylvania is $120,000.
Emory does the same thing.
Yeah, and so and that's what I try to tell people is like there are different options for you to go to schools, to get a quality education, to graduate, and to afford it in the most, realistic way. But, I think it's one of those things that people just have to know this.
I'm glad to hear you say college isn't for everyone, too, because we've debated this, I think, a few times on the show. It's like, is college for everyone? What kind of colleges? Is that something that you need? Should people know what they want to do? I think I talked about, like maybe a month ago, I was kind of saying, I really think people need to know what they want to do. You know what I mean? Like before they do
have an
anything.
Idea what you
have an idea,
do.
like, rather than just, throwing out 50 or 20 applications to different schools and kind of seeing what bites, because that's the next thing people are doing. Like, maybe you should just know what you want to do a little bit.
But when you start removing what I call the gatekeepers, the guidance counselors, and all the special people that play those roles, you kind of leave the kids to their own devices. Well, I was in high school, I didn't know much and didn't really want to know much because I didn't really want to know much because it just wasn't a thing. And I'm from the country, so, we had other things about trying to skip school.
You're ready to till the land?
Yeah, but nobody, shut up. That's the second, you're fired again. we didn't care. I mean, devoid of having a guidance counselor, I don't know what would have happened to me if I didn't have a guidance counselor. Or the teachers didn't know my parents, which teachers knew my parents, which is a whole nother story. But the teachers knew my parents. It was okay, well, we know your mom, we know your dad, so we know you can get better grades than this. So either you're going to get better grades or we're going to call your mom. And they did. And I got embarrassed. But devoid of that, no gatekeepers and no guidance counselors, you leave these kids to their own devices. And if you don't know any better, you don't care, what happens?
And especially, I think one of the reasons that this is difficult is because the community doesn't know either. So it's not only that you have a very few amount of people who have this information, rather than an opportunity for everyone to know it. And that's sort of why I appreciate coming on the show and talking to people about it and writing the book, because this isn't just for people with kids in high school. This isn't just for people with kids. This is because you have a family, you have a family, you have a family. We all know young people in some way, shape, or form. If I can inform you guys to make sure you know, then that compounds the effect of this information. And so, this isn't my full-time job, but this is sort of my passion. So that I can do this without forcing the book on anyone. And like, you don't have to buy it. I'm good regardless. But it's one of those things where I'm just encouraging people to do things that are better for them and their family.
Yeah, he has a job.
Yeah, I'm glad that
Okay. I mean, this could have been the job, bro.
Yeah, I definitely am glad to see, like, I've known a few people to kind of push that boundary because, like you said, like, a lot of kids don't know what they want to do, and a lot of that start at home. Like, even with going to school, like, you try and go to college, who gonna pay for that?
Right.
And you know what I'm saying? I think that a lot of kids do get discouraged about wanting to further that. Like, if ain't nobody gonna pay for me to go to school, then why even go to high school? Why even try to get good grades? Why even, you know what I'm saying? So I'm glad that, I think that it should definitely be more people just trying to encourage kids. Hey, look, you go to school, get good grades. You want the good job. You can't get a good job if you don't. You know what I'm saying? But we're starting to see like a kind of push in education now. It's new.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's still new.
And I was going to say, you talked about getting a good job. So what would you say about college? Like, are there certain things that you feel like steering students towards is important? Certain majors, certain like locations?
Yeah,
like, is
tell people stop getting sociology degrees.
Actually, that and general business degrees. I'm so sick of those. Yeah. They're just so general.
Yeah. Right.
Like, find a specialization.
It's a good idea to have a longer term plan to say, like, what does this major gets paid after you graduate, because that's very important. But I'd say, like, sort of relating back to the segment before of like, where are we headed as a nation? Like, are we automating things? We need people to make apps and make things like that. Like, what do you like, and where do we see that as most popular going? Because I think that's really something that you can tell that your degree is going to be valuable moving forward.
Well, you got to follow the trend because I use the example of marketing because when I was in school, marketing was big. So it was like, oh, you major in marketing, you have a job.
Yep.
Well, we didn't know that the trend was going to turn away from actually hiring marketers to do this stuff, that you'd be able to do it on your own. But if you follow the trend, which at that time, the internet was just almost a baby. So it was just like, oh, they'll be around. People always have to market. Yeah, they do, but not. They can do it themselves now.
That's why
So they don't
finance
ever need.
always work. Study finance. Go get you a check.
That's what I
Rat
do.
fast.
I will agree. Finance, accounting, yes. I
Real
will
talk.
agree.
I know a girl that work at Burger King. She a general manager, but she got a biology degree. I'm confused.
I can't accept that. I can't accept that.
I'm confused.
What, you can't accept what?
I can't accept that there's just certain things because nobody wants to do accounting, so you'll always be able to find an accountant. That's just that's
Well, you can't get rid of numbers. I mean,
But I don't believe people should be picking their life course based on gaps. I just don't believe it.
well, no, I wouldn't advise that. But I would tell people if you have a love for numbers
boom,
and you enjoy that and you enjoy statistics and all that other crap,
Man,
then
if
you
you
might
always
want to
have a job,
a career in accounting.
study something where you can always have a job.
Well, that's the purpose of having a
Because
minor.
you can manipulate computers to fake your numbers. It's very hard to
eventually go to jail
that's
for
fraud.
it.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
That's what I'm
which we don't
saying.
encourage.
But if you got somebody that really understands finance, they know they can track the paper. Like, get somebody that can track your paper.
I mean, I agree with Simone. You don't want to pick up. That's the purpose of having a minor. So in my head, a minor says, okay, well, I'm going to pick my major based on what I actually like to do that I can actually find a career in. My minor says, okay, if nothing else comes through, then I'll major in accounting.
Man, how many
I know I have a
sociologists
job.
do you actually know?
I think that one of the things you don't have to actually know. I'm a big proponent of just figuring it out because
agree.
I was a African American Studies and Political Science double major at Yale, and so I thought I was going to go to law school.
That
And
makes two
so
of us.
so I was like, it doesn't actually matter what I major in because I'm going to go to law school. So if that's your path, go do that.
Which
But-
nobody
Then
told
what
me
did
that.
you do? Then
right,
what did you do?
but then I realized I like the numbers, I like the math. So then
thought
I
he was a
went
math
into
nerd.
I went into finance. So that's what I do now. But that's the combination of different things. So now I'm teaching people teaching African Americans how loans work, in a way to sort of blend all of the things that I'm interested in. Into one thing. I think that's what I would encourage. Is
And
like
it's
find
in our
multiple
blood.
things and
It's in our blood to be good with numbers.
Who?
Is it really?
Black folks.
Oh.
I ain't say good with money. I said good with numbers.
Where's
Jews are good with money.
facts?
But are they good with numbers?
I don't know.
See, a
How
lot
are we
of
good
them-
with numbers? How,
We've
where you get that
always
from?
been. We've always been good with numbers. We came here in numbers. When we in the hood, it's
Oh
a
my
bunch of
God.
I
us.
thought we were just fast
Yeah.
and funny.
We're
I like that.
hustlers.
I like
Exactly.
that.
I thought we were entertainers
Like-
by nature.
like,
I
think
would never
about
said
this.
math.
The hardest math is being able to do long multiplication on a block, like that. We've always been able to do that good. Like, imagine dudes that can study finance that stand on the block right now.
They could do a lot of things.
They
Exactly.
can do a lot
I
of
mean,
things.
you really gonna go into majors.
True.
You can get
Which
into
is-
biology because if they can mix all this stuff to
Well-
make super crack and super weed, clearly they could have been good at chemistry. They understand the periodical chart,
To pull a little bit out of the gutter of stereotypes for African Americans.
thank you.
which
But-
Derek took us to.
But
I'm just
still-
saying, we good.
But
we
still a
good at math.
stereotype,
too.
but a better stereotype. I feel like if we're engineered for anything as a people, I feel like we're very entrepreneurial. I feel like as much as possible, whatever we have to do as a people, we want to try to find a way to do it ourselves or to do our own thing. I feel like if anything, we kind of like to be our own bosses. So I feel like there's probably, probably a lot of small business owners among our community. But I think that's the big thing that is missing in this whole college landscape of learn this, learn that. It's like it has to be okay, what can I own or what can I start or just what do I want to do at the top and then work your way down. So when if you want to get a job and always have a good job, that's fine. But I feel like
But
that's
they don't teach
mediocre. That should not
entrepreneurship.
be your standard. Your standard should be what can I create, what can I build, not like who can I work for. I want us to start like teaching that.
And I think that with that, I think there's the people who create things, and then there's the people who run the business
Right,
of
manage
creating
things.
that thing.
Mhm.
And I think that sometimes even if you teach the entrepreneurship of how to build it, they may not know how
The
to
business.
run it.
Right.
And,
Yeah.
and that's sort of sometimes the confusion.
Called
Yeah.
the Steve Jobs effect.
I feel like you
Steve
just
Jobs
make stuff
effect.
off.
No, I've heard of that, and I was
No,
just thinking,
I've
like,
heard
I
too,
thought
but
it
I'm
was
sure
the Zuckerberg
what
effect.
you heard is not gonna be what he says. So what is that?
The Steve Jobs effect was he wasn't the creator of all the technology, but he knew how to market it. He knew how to sell it.
He was the visionary. He wasn't the engineer.
Yeah, you can be a visionary. Like, hey, I got an idea for something that can brighten up my house, and we can call it an incandescent light. So
that's why
but
Zuckerberg's
Lewis
the man.
Latimer created
because he's an engineer,
like,
and then he became the man.
Right. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So it's the guys that it's always gonna be the guys that you see in the front that can sell well. That don't mean that we don't need the guys that create well too, but I think somebody gotta say, hey, you can do both.
Yeah.
Hey, you can be the boss.
Right.
You don't have to just be an employee.
Right.
No, David, that we're not talking about you. All right, so on that note, we're gonna take a break. And for those that have questions about the collegiate process or things of that magnitude, feel free to call in. The number is 678-944-7944. Again, 678-944-7944. Now listen, don't call in with 50,000 questions about student loans. That is not what we're doing today. It's a part of the process, but that's not what we're doing. We're not going to bombard Mr. Harp with 50,000 questions about student loans.
And default.
But real talk, though,
and about forbearances and all that stuff.
We can talk about it. I can tell you about it. But.
All right, so when we come back, we'll talk about that. But stick around with the Leadership Blend with your host, Ricardo D. Rice.
Tune in every Monday from 10 a.m. to noon right here on IBNX Radio for the Dr. Sonia Sutherland Show.
Destiny Talk Live is closing out September with a bang. Please join me, Cherry G, and my co-host, Dr. Michael Shiroya, on Thursday, September 27th from 12 noon to 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Atlanta NX on IBNXradio.com. We have a full house for you. Come meet Pastor Bobby Elsie, founder of One Body Worship Center and One Body International Fellowship. Jessica L. Frazier, founder and executive director of Straight Street Life Center. Stephen Turner, a freelance writer and comedian that says he is a self-professed hypocrite and overrated underdog. Last but not least, R.J. Hodges, a business development coach and author. Join the conversation and learn how we bring their expertise and talents together and how they are committed to being agents of change. In the meantime, make a great day.
I hear you calling me, calling your spirit drawing me. Good and bad and joy and pain, they all go hand in hand. Often they play their roles at the same time. Confused, I don't understand. I don't do everything wrong, and I'm not always right. I keep it real with myself. That God is that greater than me, that lives in me, guiding me safely. I'm so unworthy.
everybody. It's Ricardo D. Rice from the Leadership Blend, where we're simplifying your leadership. All right, so we are back on this Friday edition of this Friday college edition of the Leadership Blend with your host Ricardo D. Rice and my correspondents
Double R.
And Simone Cherie.
and our special guest
Jeremy Harp.
All right, so when we went on break, we were kind of doing little overviews and stuff, but now we're going to get into the meat. So we're going to get back into graduation rates. Now, previously on the shows that me and Jeremy did together, we got into this whole HBCU debacle. So I'm going to let him talk about graduation rates and what they look like at different types of colleges and things of that magnitude. All right, we'll start with what is the importance of a graduation rate and what should it forecast for you?
Right. So the graduation rate to me for a college is the second most important number that you can look at related to this college, because the goal of going to college is graduating. Mm-hmm. So you have to look at a college to say, what are my odds of graduating from this college in 4 years? You know, a lot of colleges will put their 6-year graduation rate out there and say, yeah, our graduation rate is 80% in 6 years. You know, but that's looking at it from a 4-year degree perspective, because no one expects to be there for 6 years. And so every year you're there, it costs more money. They don't stop charging you after 4 years. And so to me, the graduation rate is the second most important thing that you can look at.
What's your first?
Can you get in? Because who cares if you can graduate from it if you can't get into it?
Can I just ask what kind of makes the difference? Like, there's such stark graduation rate differences. Like, what contributes to that? Is it like, I mean, what is it?
It's not a loaded question.
It is a loaded, but I just want to understand, because I'm kind of confused. Like, I'm confused about how that reflects on the school. Like, if the graduation rate is low, it sounds like it's the student's fault. Why? Like, I'm trying to understand, like.
To me, it seems like it's depending on who they let in, who they admit. Because if you have a school who admits the students who really aren't sure what they want to do, or they aren't sure that college is the place for them, then that may reflect a certain graduation rate, because that population may drop out easier than other populations.
So it kind of reflects the students.
Right.
Oh, okay, it does.
That's why the Ivy Leagues have like 90-something% 4-year graduation rates, because everyone goes there to graduate in 4 years. Okay. But a lot of my friends from high school, you know, they would go to colleges and like party and girls and guys and like all these things. And it's like, if that's your group that you're hanging around, then that may trend poorly for you over the long term. Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess the question
becomes, why you look at me?
I was
why you look at me? I graduated.
A hit dog will holler.
He was silent.
Man.
A hit dog will holler.
I definitely graduated from college.
That's a shade right there, but okay.
I mean, I guess the question for me is looking at where a school has been to where it is now. So if your graduation rate was 17%, and then over the past 3 years it's gone up to 25%, it shows that you're doing something. At least you're looking at, maybe you're not offering enough supplemental programs to make sure these students are graduating, and you care.
Right.
So, you know, it's a catch-22.
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, you get freshman classes in. Everybody is not coming in to graduate in 4 years. That's the plan in the back of their mind. But the first mind, I want to have the full college experience. So I want to do this. I want to do Greek life. I want to do Greek life. You know, I want to do. I want to join organizations. I want to start an organization. But if you don't have those supplemental programs in place, which I feel like is a college's job to kind of rudder these kids and make sure, hey, we get you in and out. Because the longer you stay, I don't want a 30-year-old. Exactly. It looks bad on them because now you're affecting our graduation rates.
I think it's better for them. Well, it affects their graduation rate, but financially it's better for them.
Well, yeah, I mean, of course. But I mean, you know,
right.
Especially when we had this debacle on Monday talking about for-profit institutions and not-for-profit institutions. Wow. This is what started the whole talk about cracking down on for-profit schools, because their goal was not to graduate them. Now, in that scenario, the longer you stay here, the more money I get.
Does that come up with students you talk to, that they're interested in for-profit schools, any of them?
Not really. I think that they have the more popular schools in mind, so they want to go to the Georgia States, the UGAs, or the Georgia Techs, the Emorys, the Morehouses, the Spelmans. Like, they want to go to those, but then the getting in is the hard part.
Okay.
So then they sort of like, you know, all right, well, where can I get in? And those for-profit schools tend to just accept everyone, because they just, as long as you can take out a loan, they're going to accept you.
That was the goal.
Because that's a lot of what their goal is. They'll accept you knowing that more than likely you're not going to graduate.
So they'll spend more money on their admissions reps to give them the quotas and stuff to get you in the door.
Right.
But once you get into the door, you're not going to see a lot of supplemental programs to make sure you graduate.
I gotcha.
It's a terrible process. And like I said, I've been through it. I didn't go with undergrad there, thank God. But I was around. Thank God.
Do you think it helps to go away for school? You went away. I know I really wanted to go away. Do you encourage students to do that? Do students always want to go to like the bigger schools around them?
I think depends. I think some students, depends on what their family situation's like. I couldn't wait to get out of my parents' house. So, and I only applied to one school in Georgia. And so that was my thing. I was like, I'm getting away. But goes back to the affording it factor is out-of-state tuition is double what it is for in-state tuition. Mm-hmm. So if you want to go to a Clemson and that's your dream school, I would just suggest going to University of Georgia. Similar schools, similar rankings, similar size. One's half as expensive as the other. So, things like that is making decisions not on your dreams or, your dream school, but what's more realistic to me and what's beneficial when I turn 30. I don't have all these, student loan debts and
I don't want to talk about
like
it.
That.
It's a sore subject for Ricardo.
I don't want to talk about it because every time I think about it, I'm like, why did I decide to try to get a doctorate? What was I thinking? We're
you want to be Dr. Rice?
And in the process, I became
bitter,
enthralled in student loan debt. Rice, not the goal, not the goal. All right. So, question: because I'm sure you have a process for this. So, starting from like 9th grade up to 12th grade, how would you say people should escalate this ladder of getting prepared to go to college?
I think it's just starting the process early. I think that people's ideas of college preparation starts in 11th or 12th grade. It is application preparation rather than college preparation.
True.
And so what I try to encourage people to do is not only to start 9th grade, but elementary school, middle school. You don't just walk onto a high school campus and then just say, all right, I'm in the mindset to get good grades and prepare for college. It starts with elementary school, getting good grades, practicing all these things so that when you're ready, you just perform and think nothing of it.
All right, so I like to give people nuggets. So what would you say are the top 4 things people should get prepared for? As soon as your child, of course, it's a never-ending process to get them ready. But as soon as your child steps foot on a high school campus in 9th grade, what should be the top 4 things they're aiming for? Like SAT scores, GPAs. What are the top 4 things they should have in mind?
Get good grades. That's the number one thing.
Okay.
And then start learning and preparing for the SAT and ACT.
Okay.
Those 2 things will be the biggest factors for them getting in.
So you would advise them getting... Okay, I think about like the LSAT. People warned me that I should take the LSAT class, but I was like, I'm smart. I don't need to do that. Yeah, I should have done it. Right. I should have taken the LSAT class. Would you say the same thing for the SAT and ACT?
If the student will get a lot out of it. Because let's say you spend, $2,000 on this class, but then you get a $6,000 scholarship because of your increased scores, it's worth it now. But if the student doesn't get that extra help or they don't put into practice what they learn from that class, then it's not very helpful.
And I think maybe it'd be good to take a practice test first.
Absolutely.
Because sometimes kids don't know how they learn. And like for me, I learn better on my own than I do in a classroom because my mind moves at its own pace. And if somebody asks a question and they're stuck on something, it's like I get bored and I tune it out because I'm like already trying to, like it doesn't work for me. So I like to go at my own pace. But I think taking the test and seeing how you do may be a good way to kind of gauge, like, well, maybe I should pay for some help because I'm just not getting very good.
Yeah.
But, like, if it's hopeful for anybody who is listening, I had bad grades. I had very bad grades because schools cared about attendance, and I did not. I was very smart. I did not feel like I had to be in the class to prove that.
Oh, you were a skipper?
I was chronic.
And I was too, and I was lit. I missed 90 days of senior year and graduated on the honor roll. What's happening?
Well, there you go. But I had
What's happening?
I had good test scores, which to me was all I had good test scores, and I wrote well. So in my college applications, I pled my little case and poured my little heart out about, I created a couple of different dramatic scenarios. But the idea was I'm very smart, and if you let me in, then I'll prove that. But just don't, just an apology for my grades. So I do think things can happen if you just, even if that's not your strong suit. And I think some people have great grades, and I've heard they have the opposite problem. They can't take tests.
That leads me to my next question. All right, so I'm going to ask you, myth or truth? Are African Americans predisposed to not do well on standardized tests? Because we hear that all the time. Is that factual or is that a myth?
I think it's a myth. I think that it's hard to say any group of people are predisposed for anything unless it's like genetic or, whatever. But I don't think it's in our blood to not do well on the SAT.
I love to say that.
I think that people, we may not put as much effort into studying for it as some other groups may. So that may be something, but I don't think that it's a,
So you think it's more so about the prep for the test than it is the test itself?
Absolutely. I've taken some of these prep classes, and especially going to Yale and seeing my friends and how they prepared, and they just got tutors and this and that and where they started from and what score they actually got. Man, it does not measure intelligence at all. It measures how much you prepare for.
Right.
Yeah, I can't even lie. When I was taking tests in high school, because I was smart, but I get bored real fast. So I get so bored, like I would take a test and then get like a B, and then but that's just like guessing, like, yo, I just want to get up out of here. Like, let me hurry up. All right, I'm gonna just guess real fast,
Right.
and then when you score well, and I've seen this happen before, when you score well on a test that you didn't study for, you assume you can keep doing it like that.
Yeah.
Right.
And
then
can
you
get away
keep
with
doing
a
it
lot.
like that until you get like a 36 on the test.
And then you just feel like,
Or you get called on the carpet by your teacher, and she's like, yeah, I can realize you're not applying yourself, so what are we going to do about this? That happens a lot. I had a lot of those come to Jesus moments with a lot of my teachers.
Right.
Learn the hard way.
principals and
Yeah,
suspension.
kind of. All right, so we have a couple of minutes left. All right, so let's get into really quickly this HBCU thing and graduation rates.
Right.
You should disclaimer that your opinion, no one's opinion represents the station. Just
Okay,
before.
fine. Can I put a disclaimer on my own self?
Yes.
Okay, so the thoughts and
Especially
opinions
your
of
opinion.
Ricardo D. Rice are not actually reflective of the correspondence or the IBNX Radio Network brand. Okay, so back to the issue at hand. All right, so we know it's factual that a lot of HBCUs, because most of them are private schools, do cost more than a regular state-funded school, correct?
That's right.
Now, what do their graduation rates actually look like?
It's fairly low. Except for a few. So Spelman actually has the second highest 4-year graduation rate in the state of Georgia.
Score?
Absolutely. Absolutely Spelman. But then they're at 65% around. Morehouse is about 35%. So
Did you say Morehouse's graduation rate is 35%?
For 4 years, that's, I think, what they hover around, plus or minus.
And it's the same campus, basically.
It's there right next door.
And
So
Clayton.
what about
Not
Clark
only-
Atlanta?
And Clark Atlanta is
Clark.
probably lower around there too. But again, my point is they have low graduation rates and they're some of the most expensive schools in Georgia. And so that's not good for us as
Ideal.
people who apply to those schools.
Let
Why
me
do you
say
have such a
this.
strong opinion?
He look like he want to get it out so
Right.
bad. He want to get it out
Okay,
so bad.
Look.
Poor Morehouse.
I am from South Carolina. So we have State University. We have Benedict. We
Clemson.
have Claflin. I'm talking about HBCUs. Claflin. These are all recognized schools, for who they are, for being pillars in the education arena. I've seen friends who have gone there have not graduated. I've seen, the extracurriculars were great, but actually getting them to graduate,
Extracurricular.
like it's nice that you go to Claflin because you're on the choir, but if you can't graduate in 4 years or 6, that's a problem for me. I don't hate HBCUs. I appreciate what they were created to do. My problem is I don't feel like they're doing their due diligence at this moment in history. Right. It's nice that Morehouse was great and it churned out all these great people, but what are you doing now? Why is your graduation rate what it is? But you're charging these kids double the money. So mostly that tells me that most of these kids are going to your institution because they want to be a Morehouse man, but they're not graduating.
Yeah.
And nobody's looking into the problem. That is my problem with HBCUs. Love them. I know what they were created to do. You're just not doing it. That's the problem.
And I think that it's hard for people to criticize that because we're in a very pro-black sort of space right now that it's hard to criticize anything. And so now it's hard to hold their feet to the fire to say, look, asking the question, are you doing more harm than good? Because if 35% of your people are graduating, that means 65% aren't.
So what are they doing? And why is nobody looking into it?
But all you got to do is just ask the question. If all these random, if one great man every 15 years come out of the school, what happened to all the other great men?
There's a lot of great graduates from Morehouse.
There are a
doing
lot of
I
great
love
graduates.
Morehouse. And let me clear this up. I was accepted to Morehouse. I chose not to go. And the only reason I chose not to go was because I actually looked at my financial aid packet. you're not going to double my student loans and decrease my federal assistance. We're not doing that. It's the only reason I didn't go. So that's what made me look into why are you doing this?
Yeah, for what they charging, 80-90% of these students should graduate.
Your graduation rate should be about 90 to 95%. So why is it 35?
And I think what happens is there's a keeping up with the Joneses sort of mentality of like, we have to have top tier that, we have to upgrade that, we have to build new this, and it's like, we don't have to do that. If you're Morehouse, if you're whatever, be great, you know, and graduate a smaller group of students. Don't accept so many students, you know, make sure those men are great, and then that's what gets you more students, not just charging more money.
But it is very competitive. You know, like they do want the best students there and the best faculty, and so they have to build and buy and build and buy. And
where they going because they got a 35% graduation rate?
I guess what I'm saying is students who can pay out of pocket are the students you want to attract, right? And those students are coming from a background that usually implies they have a certain standard for what a school should look like, with the buildings, the quality of this, the quality of that. You know, if you can say that you've got like a research facility and, you know, you're pumping out, you know, groundbreaking, whatever, it just makes the schools want to spend more money.
That cool until you get on a campus and you walk
Please,
across the
let's
street.
talk about Morehouse campus.
Let's not
Please.
even.
Well,
you know, okay, on that note, we're in our last couple of minutes, so final thought.
I think it's just so I haven't told you where to buy my book.
That
so
was
it's
your final thoughts.
Absolutely. It's my website is www.collegeprepatlanta.org, and you can buy the book there. It's $25, and it's a very inexpensive purchase given how much knowledge and money you could save based on
I will
that
second
information
that.
in there.
And it's not your typical a book filled with a bunch of words. It actually has the pictures, the diagrams, everything. I will absolutely agree with that. I will co-sign on it. It's an amazing book.
Right.
How did he get in touch with you?
There's my email is on the website as well. It's info@collegeprepatlanta.org is my email address if you would like to reach out or anything like that, have any additional questions.
My final thought, no, I thank you for what you're doing. I encourage people to reach out to you. I would probably save about $20,000 had I done my own level of college prep for sure. I transferred away from HBCU after a year. I could have gotten in-state tuition, but I didn't know because I didn't do research because I was 17 and ready to get on a plane and go. So, a lot to be said for for being prepared and for doing a little bit of research for sure. So thank you.
Wrap up.
Shout out to you. We need more people like you. If I would have had people like you in school, that I probably would have went to school.
There you go.
Yeah.
But I graduated on the road and I missed 90 days, so shout out to me too.
That's something. That's something.
This is what I'm saddled with every Monday and Friday.
Be humble.
This is my fault. All right, so on Monday, we're supposed to have Tamika Milburn, so I will get into that. So check my website and everything, ricecommunity.com, to see. She's scheduled, but I might save her for something a little bigger. I love Tamika. She actually owns a women's professional basketball league who's killing it in Atlanta, Tamika Milburn. So check the website because I want to make sure I'm keeping her on Monday, but she's definitely coming to the show. But on next Friday, we have one of the show's friends, Ashley Dash, who is a career branding expert. So she'll be telling you how to get that dream career, how to get that resume right. She'll be here on next Friday for sure. But definitely, again, check the website, risecommunity.com. Calculated Conflict, which is my book, is also on the website. So I will see you guys on Monday, same time, same place, on the Leadership Blend with your host, Ricardo D. Rice.
IBNX Radio.